Hey, welcome back. This is part two, and in this segment, as I taught you in part one, I taught you the scale. Well, we're dealing with this dealt with the C major scale, and gave you a formula how you can create the scale. Now, what I'm gonna do is give you the chords that are associated with the scale, and we'll just go over it real quick. C major scale: C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, and that's the C major scale. Now, with that scale, there are chords that are associated with that scale, which, and I'll give you the chord names as well. You have so with that scale, those are chords. What I just played is chords. They're basic. They're basic triad chords, three finger chords. Um, my first chord would be a C major chord because my root, well, the scale that start out on C, but the root for that chord would be a C major chord, which is C, E, G. My next, because in the C scale, my next chord is my next note is a D, so my root chord would be a D minor chord, which is D, F, A. Next note would be E, so the chord that is associated with E would be a E minor chord. That would be E, G, B. The next chord, the next note is an F in the C major scale, and the chord associated with the F is a F major chord, and that would be F, A, C. Next note is a G, and the chord associated with that G is G, B, D, and that is a G major chord. The next note would be an A. The chord associated with that A is ACE. That is an A minor chord. And then the next note is a B, and the chord associated with like a B half diminished. Actually, a B diminished is a B diminished, and that would be B D F. And then of course we go back to the A other one, which is C E G. So those are the chords that are associated with that particular scale. And what you can do on your left hand is you can just simply just use the scale with your left hand and go C, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And this time, and you can harmonize it, which you're doing chords. So with your left hand, just do your scale and then use your right hand and walk it up in chords. So it should sound like this. I'm sorry. So it should sound like that. And all it is that you're doing the scale, but you just harmonize the scale and you added chords to the scale. And the reason why the chords are important, the reason why scales are important because as you see, the scales is kind of where you get your chords from the scale. So really you can't form a chord or anything unless you know the scale. And the scale is like the most important thing about playing. Now, with those chords that I just gave you, it's called chord. You can use inversions. They're called chord inversions. You can use inversions to play those same chords. It's the same chord, but you just used a different way in playing. You just inverted it. The quality of the chord doesn't change. The name of the chord, if it's a C chord, it's gonna be a C chord. You just playing it a different way. That don't change. The only thing what change about it is the sound. The quality of the chord is still the same, but the sound of the chord is what make it sound different. And the only reason why is because, well, we'll get into that. I'll show you what the inversions are to each one of the chords and how you can create a chord inversion. We had C major, that's what we started out with, C major, which is C, E, G. Now what I can do is I want to keep the same note, C, E, G, but right now the G is on top, but I want to invert that chord. So what I simply do is just move the C down and put the C on top. To now I have E, G, C. It's still part of the chord. I just done inverted a different way, and it give me a different sound. Notice the C, E, G, the C chord sound like this, but then if I invert it, it sound like this. So all inversions do is just give you a different sound. It's the same chord, it just give you a different sound. And some inversions work well and some of them don't. It's just all about taste and how you want it to sound. So now that I have E, G, C, now I want to put the E on top. So I still got to keep the quality of the chord, which is originally what we started as C, E, G. So now I want to put the E on top. So now I have G, C, E. Notice I'm still using the same notes in the major chord. I'm just flipping it and inverting it. But I still got the same notes. I'm just taking one note and putting it on top. One note, putting it on top. And now I can invert it again, which I inverted back home because I want to put the G back on top. And it'll just go back to my C major chord where I started from. So that's the purpose of the inversions, is just give you a different sound. It's the same quality, it's just a different sound that you can use. Okay, for the D minor, I want to put the D on top, so I simply just move the D down. So my first inversion of that would be F, A, D. Then I can invert it again. So now it's A, D, F, and then I go back to the regular where I started, D, F, A, which is root position. E minor, same way. E, G, B is the root position. I want to invert that, so now I put the E on top. So now it's G, B, E, and then I can move it. Now I want to put the G on top now, so now it's B, E, G, and then it'll go back to its root position, E, G, B. You basically can invert as many times as you can by, you invert until you get back to the root. If you go back to the root after you invert it so many times, then that's really only way you can invert it. But when you're dealing with triads, you really just only have two ways to invert it: the root position, then the first inversion, and the second inversion when you're dealing with three finger chords. So always keep that in mind. So now I have the F chord, which is my root position. I want to invert that. So now I have it as, my root position was F, A, C. Now I have it as A, C, F. Now I want to invert it again. So now I got it as C, F, A. And then I'm back to my root position, A, F, A, C. Now I'm to my G chord, G major chord. So I want to invert that, put the G on top. Now it's B, D, G. And then I want to put the B on top. So now it's D, G, B. And then I invert it back to put the D on top and go back to the root position, G, B, D. Now the next two that we have is the A chord and the B chord. I'm not going to break that down. I want you to either inbox me what you think the inversion would be on that, or just put it on my comment. I want you to do that so I can make sure you understand what you're doing and how you get inversion. So with the A and the B chord, I want you to inbox me or put it under my comment under the video. But I want you to inbox me, however way, a comment to let me know, to give me those inversions to the A and B, because not only do I want to give you information and to plan, but I also want to give you assignments so I can make sure you understand what I'm doing. Because sometimes you can play, and a lot of times if I give you all the answers, then sometimes that won't let me know if you got it. But if I give you an assignment to do with it, and then you do it, then I'm like, okay, they understand, and or they, kind of got an idea of what I'm doing. And with that, with the inversions, you just simply, keep whatever root chord you're doing or whatever inversion you're doing. You just, if it's a C inversion, you still keep the bass on C. If it's a D inversion, you keep it on D or whatever. So, you still keep the left hand. Whatever your inversion is of that chord, you keep the left hand. The left hand is associated. So if you're doing an F chord, then your bass hand your left hand need to be an F. And let me show you an example of why inversions are important, because it just gives you a different sound. So right now I'm going to just do something going from the C, F, a C chord, a F chord, a G chord, and back to a C chord. I'm gonna do it one way, and then I'll do it using inversions. Okay, that's one way. Now let me do it a way using inversion to show you how different it sounds. So if you notice how different that sounded or whatever, it's the same quality of the chords. All I'm going is from C, F, G, C. I'm doing the same thing, but I'm making it sound different because of the inversions I'm using. Another way. So that's what that is. You notice it sounds different. And the only reason why it sounds different because your top note, especially in gospel, your top note is almost considered your melody. So all I did was just change the melody, and we'll get more into melodies a little later. But if you notice, when I see my melody, the original way my melody was like this. That was originally my melody, but then when I used the inversion, it sounded like this. So it's all because I changed my melody. I put a different, like that was the original way, but then I used the inversion of C, my C major inversion, and then I just used a G, C, E, and then instead of the original way I went to an F major, the root position, F, A, C. Instead of me doing that, I just simply used the inversion, A, C, F, and then when I went to that G, I used G, B, D. But instead of doing that, I used the inversion, B, D, G, and then I went back to the inversion of the C chord, which is G, C, E. So my original way was a C chord, the C root position, C, E, G, F, A, C, G, B, D, C, E, G. But then I used my version of that chord, which gave it a different sound, and it changed the melody note. G, C, E, A, C, F, B, D, G, G, C, G, C, E. So that's the importance of inversions. It give you different options, and you can kind of get a different sound out of it. You staying true to the quality of the chord, you just playing it a different way. And a lot of songs, as you start learning songs, you'll notice in a lot of gospel music and things, they're playing the same formula, but a lot of times all they're doing is just changing up the chord, using those inversions of the chords to kind of throw you off and it sound like they're doing a lot more than what they're really doing. And so that's just kind of the purpose of inversions. So don't forget the assignment for this particular lesson is give me the inversions for the A chord and the B chord.
Never have I needed it this much. Help me now.